in the seeking, Lord, I find you in the down. And to know you is to love you, and to know so little else I need you. Oh, how I need you. Oh, how I need you. Oh, how I need you. Lord, I find you in the seeking. Lord, I find you in the down. And to know you is to love you, and to know so very little else I need you. Oh, I need you. Oh, I need you. Oh, I need you. Lord, I find you in the morning, Lord, I see every day. Let my life for your glory, Lord, there's a grace I need you. Oh, how I need you. Oh, how I need you. Oh, how I Light glorious light, I will go where you shine. Break the dawn, crack the sky, make the way right before me. In your light, I will find all I need. All I need is you. Light glorious light, I will go where you shine. Break the dawn, crack the sky, make the way right before me. In your light, I will find all I need. All I need is you. Oh, how I need 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 you. Thank you.
Our psalm this morning comes from Psalm 30, if you want to follow in your Bible. I will exalt you, Lord, for you lifted me out of the depths and did not let my enemies gloat over me. Lord my God, I called to you for help, and you healed me. You, Lord, brought me up from the realm of the dead. You spared me from going down the pit. Sing the praises of the Lord, you his faithful people. Praise his holy name. For his anger only lasts a moment, but his favor lasts a lifetime. Weeping may not stay for the night, but rejoicing comes in the morning. When I felt secure, I said, I will never be shaken. Lord, when you favored me, you made my royal mountain stand firm. But when you hid your face, I was dismayed. To you, Lord, I was called. To the Lord I cried for mercy. What is gained if I am silenced, if I go down to the pit? Will the dust praise you? Will it proclaim your faithfulness? Hear, Lord, be merciful to me. Lord, be my help. You turned my wailing into dancing. You removed my sackcloth and clothed me with joy, that my heart may sing your praises and not be silent. Lord, my God, I will praise you forever.
all this pain, I wonder if I'll ever find my way. I wonder if my life could really change at all. And all this earth, could all that is lost ever be found? Could a garden come up from this ground at all? You make beautiful things, you make beautiful things out of the dust. You make beautiful things, you make beautiful things out of us. And all around, hope is springing up from its own ground. Out of chaos, life is being found in you. You make beautiful things, you make beautiful things. constant and safe, my hope. You are my shelter, I will not fear, even in darkness you're here. You are my refuge, you are my hope, constant and safe, my hope. You are my shelter, I will not fear, even in darkness you're here. You're here. Some of these songs are a prayer, some are a prophecy to ourselves, a longing for it to be true. That even in darkness, God is here. That even out of this old ground, that new life is springing up, that hope is springing up. So a lot of times we live in this tension between what is and what is yet to come. And so as people of faith, I hope that we can both lean into that, embrace that hope of Jesus Christ, but also to live out that hope for others. And when they're in seasons where they feel like it's ashes and it's dust and it's death, that we can breathe new life, that we can be there as a source of life for them. You heard the cry of our hearts, and you came down. Freely you gave us your love, showing us how. Make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is darkness, let me shine light. May your light cause us to open up, cause us to open our hearts. May your light cause us to shine so bright that we bring hope into the dark. We just say that together. Maybe put your hand on your heart. Say, may we love as you love. May we love as you love. God, we are wholly unprepared and inadequate at times. But your love is flowing through us. Your Spirit is with us. And so we hold on to that and we thank you for that. May we be faithful to that love inside of us, the love that you've gifted to us. In Jesus' name, amen. Well, now you may greet one another. If you have kids in the 4K class, you can send them on down the hallway.
conversations, we can continue these after the service. We're going to continue on our service this morning. So just a few quick announcements as we continue on. Next week we're starting our new sermon series, Arts and Spirituality. And so all over this next week and the following week, we're asking if there's anyone in the church who has any type of artwork, you interpret that however you would like, that you would like to be able to bring into the church to be able to display. We would like for you to place that on these front pews here, and then there's a team that's going to use that to decorate our building as well as our stage for the art series. So we hope that folks will bring in their work that we can see and be represented. Along with the work you bring in, we hope that you'll provide a little explanation about why that gives you joy and what the meaning is behind that artwork for you. We'll be integrating that into our series. You'll notice on the back of the notes, if you don't have these, you can also go to the website. You'll also find notes on your way out today. There will be several different art workshops that we'll have every week after church for the next 4 weeks. Different things that people can engage in. On the fourth week, it will be for families. Sunday school will be over for the summer. We hope that families will come and be a part of that, but also single folks are welcome to be a part of that as well, or whatever your family unit looks like. So we hope you'll be a part of that as well. Everything else, I'll let you sort of catch a revelation of as you read and study, and catch a revelation of. It's so spiritual, I say. Hope that you'll choose to be a part of those things. So with that, I'll invite our scripture reader to come forward for this morning. And we'll keep going.
Good morning. Today's scripture is from Luke 10:25 to 37. While you look it up, a special shout out to Lewis and Stu Ingersoll. They're watching live from Jerusalem this morning. This is from the New Living Translation. It's about the Good Samaritan. One day an expert in religious law stood up to test Jesus by asking him this question. Teacher, what should I do to inherit eternal life? Jesus replied, what does the law of Moses say? How do you read it? The man answered, you must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your strength, and all your mind. Love your neighbor as yourself. That's worth repeating. You must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your strength, and all your mind. Love your neighbor as yourself. Right, said Jesus. Do this and you will live well. The man wanted to justify his actions, so he asked Jesus, who's my neighbor? Jesus replied with a story about a Jewish man who was traveling from Jerusalem down to Jericho, and he was attacked by bandits. They stripped him of his clothes, beat him up, left him half dead beside the road. By chance, a priest came along, but when he saw the man laying there, he crossed to the other side of the road, passed him by. A temple assistant walked over and looked at him lying there, but he also passed him by. Then a despised Samaritan came along. When he saw the man, he felt compassion for him. Going over him, the Samaritan soothed his wounds with olive oil and wine and bandaged him up. Then he put the man on his own donkey, took him to an inn where he took care of him. The next day, he handed the innkeeper 2 silver coins, telling him, take care of this man. If his bill runs any higher, I'll pay you next time. Now, which of these 3 would you say was a neighbor to the man who was attacked by bandits? Jesus asked. The man replied, the one who showed him mercy. And Jesus says, yes, now go do the same. And Jesus said, yes, now go do the same. This is the word of the Lord.
Thank you. Good morning, Imago. Am I on my microphone? I'm Christina. And if this isn't going to work, that's no problem. I can do this because I was a little nervous about my hair anyway. So. Okay. It is National Foster Care Month, and I'm excited to spend the next part of our service talking about an initiative that's near and dear to my heart, Surround.
So if you're newer to our community, or maybe you've been here for the full 11 years, you still may not quite understand the breadth and the depth of this initiative of our church. And one of those reasons is because, like a lot of things around here, it started very organically. So let me tell you about the beginning of this whole thing. A few years ago, we were looking for a way to give back around Christmas time, and at that point, we were involved with Operation Christmas Child, where you fill the shoeboxes and you send them internationally. And for a myriad reasons, we decided to stop doing that. We can talk about that another time offline. But we decided to do something local instead, something where we felt like we'd have more connection to what we were doing. And so I knew that there were agencies in the area who were working with people in foster care, kids in foster care who were looking for Christmas gifts. So I said, hey, what do you think about this? Everyone's like, that sounds great. So that's sort of how this whole thing started. And through that, we came alongside a couple different agencies during that year, DCFS being one of them, straight to DCFS, as well as Family Corps, which is our current partner in this initiative. And to be honest, the reason we chose to continue partnering with Family Corps is because they were extremely responsive. They were really grateful, it was easy to communicate, and we also had Elizabeth Hensel, who was working there at the time, and so that connection made a whole lot of sense. So that's why we started there. Sometimes people say, why do we only help them? That's just where we started, and that's where we're at right now. So that's where we're at. And from there, we also, Dustin and I, were on our own foster parent journey behind the scenes, and that's also a conversation for another time. If you'd like to know more of our story, or why we got involved, I would love to sit with you over coffee and answer any questions you have. Nothing is off limits. Anything you wonder about the system or about our journey or why we ended up there, I would love to talk about that. So that was going on. And then also some other people in our church were starting to get involved in foster care. So there were a couple families taking the Pride classes, which is the classes you have to go through in Illinois, which helps you get certified. So it teaches you about trauma, teaches you about where these kids are coming from, attachment, all sorts of stuff. It's required. So people were going through those classes. And then we also had a few people in our community who were waiting to be placed for some domestic infant adoption, which is not foster care, but it is when a birth mom who is pregnant is preparing, and she decides to come up with an adoption plan. So she decides placing her baby into someone else's care is the best choice. And so we had a couple families behind the scenes waiting for that. And in fact, one of those families was matched a couple of different times, and those fell through, which is just heart-wrenching. And as we were doing all of that, I started to realize we need more support for families going through this kind of journey. So that was sort of the beginning of all of this. So, as we're talking about this topic, there's lots of things I could have done this morning. I could have started with a lot of different ways, because you can talk about all sorts of parts of the system that need help. I could spend my time talking about statistics. I could talk about the 400,000 kids in the United States right now who are in this system that is slow, inefficient, and broken at times. I could talk about the undeniable connection of foster care to so many gigantic systemic issues in society, including homelessness, poverty, mental illness, human trafficking, teenage pregnancy. And those connections cannot be denied. I could also talk about LGBTQ youth who, at a way too high rate, are placed into foster care because their own families reject them. I could talk about horrific headlines that sometimes make it across the news, and we see where the system, while it's trying to do its best, has failed some kids. Or I could talk about trauma. I could talk about adverse childhood experiences and the way that these kiddos' brains are altered permanently without intervention if someone doesn't come into their life and show them what attachment looks like. Their precious early lives were impacted by loss, neglect, abuse, or just separation, even if it was just an early adoption. All of that impacts their brains for life. So I can talk about that. I can talk about research and data and attachment. But instead of those staggering stats, which I threw a couple in anyway, or the tales of trauma that will pique your interest for a little while and hopefully move you to compassion, I really want to spend the next 30 to 35 minutes sharing stories with you. Jesus taught in stories throughout his life on earth. And I think he did this because he knew that helped people be met where they were. People were able to find themselves in the narrative, and they were able to hold on to that teaching longer than they would if he was just speaking didactically. So today, I'm hoping that these stories that we share with you from a variety of perspectives will stick with you. That you will find yourself somehow in those narratives, and that you'll also see God working in those places, because I believe that his Spirit is ever present in each of these stories. So I'm going to start with one of my favorites from the Gospels, which is the scripture that we read this morning from Luke. It's the parable of the Good Samaritan. Well-loved, perhaps overpreached, but this is what my spirit was feeling this week and last week, and so I thought, okay, we're going there. And then we're going to hear from a few people in our church who have been involved with Surround and in our community, coming alongside foster care and adoption over the last few years. So you're going to get to hear some unique ways they've used their gifts to engage this initiative. And you're also going to be able to hear from Family Corps. We have a couple of their staff members here today, so I'm really excited about that, to put some names. Many of you have not been able to get there, but you have given and served behind the scenes, and so they're here to share about what that looks like on their end. And then we're going to end with a call to action, because when I went to seminary and I took my practice preaching class, that's the thing that stuck with me. You got to give them something tangible to walk away with. So hopefully we can do that today. So let's go ahead and dive into the Good Samaritan. The story begins, like many parables, with someone asking Jesus a question. Who is my neighbor? And if you caught it in the scripture, it says that he was basically trying to sort of figure out, what are the rules here? How low can the bar be? That's what I'm hearing from it. How low can the bar be? Who really is my neighbor? My guess is he wants it to be simple, boundary, neat and tidy. I mean, I don't really blame him. If neighbors are a select group of people who I get to choose, who are similar to me, this whole thing is much easier. Let's do neighboring. But Jesus, of course, isn't in for that. And I think he really could have just said, everyone is your neighbor, you thick numbskull, when are you people gonna get it? But that wasn't Jesus, that's just me. And so he doesn't do that either, but he decides to launch into story mode. And he begins with the big setup, that a Jewish man is traveling between two cities, and he is jumped by bandits. He's beaten, stripped of his clothing, basically left to figure out his next moves while being half dead. But never fear, right? Two religious people are passing by, one after the other, a priest and a Levite. So surely these two are going to stop and take care of one of their own. But no such luck. The guy they notice, of course, but for whatever reason, they do not stop. Their journey, their story doesn't include this unexpected, inconvenient situation. And then, of course, the third man, the Samaritan, happens upon the scene. As you may know, Samaritans were despised, like it said in the passage. They were outcast, they were in part of the society that the Jewish people were in. So there was a very big separation here. And this is really important because this guy is not naturally connected to the situation. This isn't one of his own suffering. This guy who's hurt in the middle of the road is in fact almost like an enemy. But the Samaritan is confronted with that same need, and instead of looking away, he stops and engages, and he jumps all the way in. To me, it seems that there is actually more on the line for the Samaritan than there probably was for those first two people. The first two that passed by, he had more reasons to turn away. My guess is that he may not have had as many financial resources or social connections to help come alongside a Jewish man in need. I mean, he's a Samaritan. And the first two guys could have maybe used their position or their power or their influence with people to do something about the situation, but they just didn't. We don't know what his inner dialogue was like as the Samaritan comes upon the scene, but whatever it was, it somehow motivated him. And unlike the first two, he decided to do something about it. Maybe it was a feeling of compassion, the text alludes to that it overwhelmed him and it just compelled him to care. Or maybe he noticed the situation and thought, and maybe he had seen the other two guys go by. I don't know. He's like, oh my gosh, they won't take care of him. No one else is doing this. I guess it's my responsibility. Or maybe he saw it as injustice, and he wanted to make that wrong thing right. Whatever that reason, whatever the process, it landed him right in the middle of a messy, inconvenient, unknown situation that was perhaps against his better judgment. And while he might have been prepared, felt adequate, or been recognized as the most likely person to take care of this need, that didn't stop him. So he stops. He takes care of the man's injuries with the supplies that he has. He puts the man on his only mode of transportation, so now he's walking next to him to the nearest inn. I don't know how far that is. And he takes care of him. Now, this story is full of wonderful principles, but the thing that stuck out to me this particular was this idea of encompassing hospitality this man is showing. So if you look up hospitality on dictionary.com, it is the friendly reception or treatment of guests or strangers. And while we sometimes make hospitality into party planning and Pinterest-worthy appetizers, that's not really what hospitality is about at all. Hospitality is about welcoming a stranger in a way that makes them feel like they're part of you, that you're friends. And this Samaritan does that incredibly well. He continues the next day after a night of what must have been extremely awkward conversations between these two who were not used to interacting. He goes to the front and he says, hey, I've got to leave. I want to cover the stay for the night, and I'm going to leave a little extra. I need to go. I'll come back, and I'll make sure things are taken care of. So then Jesus ends the story in true Jesus fashion with another question. Who was the neighbor? Who was the neighbor to that man who was attacked? And the man who asked the original question replies, and I'm not sure what his reply sounded like, but I'm sure it wasn't excited. Knowing there's no way to deny the truth of the story, tells him, the man who showed mercy. And Jesus says to go and do likewise. Simple enough. Everyone is my neighbor. No exceptions. And I must love them as myself. And in this particular example, if I continue down the road, if I come across a person or an entire group of people who are stripped of their clothes, beaten up, left half dead, it is my responsibility as their neighbor to get involved. So I hope this morning you will see how wide the range of hospitality can be when it comes to surround. I hope you'll see that each of us, taking what we already have, can find a way to show hospitality to those in our community who are often noticed but passed by. Sometimes I think we just don't know where to start. You know you aren't planning to foster or adopt in your own family, and you might not naturally be connected to people who are. And so my hope today is that we will help make those connections and that you'll be able to find your place in this hospitality movement. So I would like to welcome three lovely ladies who have done just that, Jessica Blanton, Ruth Gaskell, and Diane Lane, to come to the front and share with us today. Will you welcome them, please? Alrighty. To you, Jessica. So we're going to start with Jessica. Can you tell us a little bit about how you're involved in foster care and about CASA?
Yes. So first, when she asked me to do this, I wasn't on call, but now I am. So if I leave, it's because I work in heart surgery at the hospital. So we can all hope that no one gets heart surgery in the next 15 minutes. So I'm a CASA, and CASA stands for Court Appointed Special Advocate. It was a program that was started in Seattle. There was a judge there that noticed that everyone had a voice in the courtroom but the child. So the parents have an attorney, the state has an attorney, the foster parents work with an agency, and then the child was sort of voiceless. So as CASAs, we have an initial 40-hour training, and then after the training, we are sworn in by the judge, and then after that, we meet with the child 1 to 3 hours a month, and then every 6 months, we write a court report for the judge, sort of expressing the child's needs, what we're noticing in foster care. We watch visits with the biological parent and just give the judge kind of another view into that child's case.
That's great. And so why did you decide to get involved? I don't know, I don't even know the answer to this question. So your first experience, I don't know if I said this, all these ladies go to Imago. I know sometimes we don't know people on the other side of the room, but they are all part of us.
So as I mentioned, I work in heart surgery. I'm a perfusionist, and we run the heart-lung machine here at Open Heart Surgery, and every year I go on medical mission trips. So usually in South America for children that need heart surgery, I don't volunteer my time, but I realized I wasn't doing anything locally. I have very close friends that were adopted, and they recently adopted out of the foster care system, and so just watching them go through the foster process, and I just noticed there's some gaps in the care of these children, and so they taught me about CASA, and I started volunteering.
That's awesome. So CASA is a really big commitment. It is volunteer, but you have intense training. When we were fostering, we had a CASA assigned to us, and she was super helpful, and we felt like at least there was somebody else's eyes on what was happening in our home. So anyway, I just want to thank you for what you do in our community. That's amazing. Okay, Ruth. Yes, well, you're welcome to have it between you. All right, Ruth. So you have been involved with Surround through Family Corps and some other ways. Can you tell us a little bit about why you decided to get involved?
I don't know. First of all, I'm not in my comfort zone. Cornerstone is out there behind the scenes. I think one thing with Surround, I have an adopted child. So when it comes to foster care and adoptive, it's very close to my heart. Fostering is something I can never do, and I admire those that can do it. The children that are in the foster care, our foster care system is broken in a lot of ways. And my heart just goes out to them. This is our future, and they've seen things, they've heard things, they've experienced things that no child should ever have to go through. And I cannot be a foster parent. First of all, I'm way too old. But even earlier, I couldn't be because I get too attached. And if I had a foster child and it was given back to its parents or adopted out, that would just, it would devastate me. I have them overnight, they're mine. And so it's something that I could never do, and I really admire those that can and that can give these children a good childhood.
So what are the practical things you've done with Surround? I'm going to describe a couple of them for us.
Things that I've done because I like being in the background is I went one day and there was 3 or 4 of us that organized their closet. That was a big eye-opener. You see the end result. You see a foster parent leaving with a backpack that has clothes in it and a child. But when you go in this closet and there's garbage bags full of clothes that have been donated and diapers, all sorts of things. Foster parent may get a call at the last minute. There's a 2-year-old. They have no clothes, no nothing. They come with what's on their back. And these foster parents can go in this closet and they get clothes. But when they're in garbage bags, it's hard to sort through. You don't always have the time. So we went in one day and we organized their closet to where boys, girls, sizes 2s, 4s, however. So foster parents can go in and grab what they need a lot easier. And that was a real eye-opener. I didn't really think about that. But it's something small that I could do, and yet it made a big difference to the workers. They didn't have to do that. They can focus on the children, which is where their focus needs to be. The appreciation lunch. I've made desserts. I've helped serve. It's something very simple. It's something I can do, and yet I feel like I'm helping. I'm showing that I appreciate what they do for our children.
Yeah, it's been awesome. So make a little promo for the appreciation lunch, which is this week, which I have not done well, which is my bad. So if you would like to get involved with that, let me know. Or if you'd like to donate something between now and Wednesday that you'd like us to give away, we do gift cards for as many workers as we can there. It's really fun raffle prizes, so you can do that. But yeah, Ruth's been doing that for several years, and she makes the best pies, so that's always a big hit. So thank you, Ruth. So many of you probably know Diane. She's a little more outgoing, I could say, in our community. But Diane, so you've been part of our Connection group, which if you're not familiar with Connection group, it's once a month. But she's going to tell a little bit about what that typical Connection group looks like.
Oh, what it looks like. All right, on the 4th Tuesday of every month, a group of us who are either foster parents or adoptive from foster care parents, get together. We have a potluck, and it is one of Tim's very favorite nights of the month, actually. He's got a big smile. I asked him on the way today why that was one of his favorite nights, and it's because there's all that food. So, and I asked him also, well, is it because of all the kids, because there's like a ton of kids, that you get to play with? No, he says, because I'm kind of shy. Have you met Tim? Right now, maybe, in this particular minute, this is not a shy child. But anyway, as a family, it is one of our favorite nights because it is the night that we love potlucks, and two, we get to sit down and have a meal with other adults where I do not have to harass my children. I do not have to, I don't have to do a lot of planning. I just get to have adult conversation. I'm meeting with other people who have similar struggles and speak the same language. And when you can sit in your own culture, that's an amazing thing. And it's healing, and I've said so many times up here about, weaving threads into the support that holds your family up. And if you're a family that needs a little bit more support, every time you show up for something like this, whether it's through making evidently a great pie, but I always think you make the best cheese balls. So every thread matters and holds up somebody who would otherwise fall through the holes.
Yeah, so it's a really big deal, and I'm going to talk a little bit about more what happens with the kids during our connection group a little bit while later, but will you thank these ladies for sharing this with me? All right, next we're going to be able to hear from Family Corps. We have a couple of their staff members today, Melissa Borders and Veronica. I'm sorry, I don't know your last name. Emma, you wanted to come up here? Okay, great. Let's welcome them. All right, we're going to start with you, Melissa. Can you tell us what drew you toward working in child welfare?
Well, I had no idea what I was getting myself into when I started working in foster care. I've always been interested in foster care and adoption, and I wanted to find a career where I could help people make positive changes to their lives. So I started working at Family Corps 11 years ago, fresh out of college, no idea what was going to happen, and I just fell in love with it. I love the chaos. I love helping to figure out what the best outcome for the children that we work with is going to be.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's good you love the chaos, because I'm sure there's a lot of it. Okay, so what does like a typical day look like for you?
Well, it's funny because I saw that question earlier, and our caseworkers will laugh when they're asked what a typical day in your life is. You can try to plan a typical day, and that would look like writing court reports, going to court, going out and meeting with your families, the biological parents, the kids in the foster homes. You might be going to their school, you might be taking them to the doctor, but we have a lot of crises that come up, and you'll have to drop everything and go pick up a child when they need you. So it's just difficult to plan a typical day, but that's what I love about it. No 2 days are the same.
And your role has evolved over time, yes?
Yes.
And so you started, tell us what you started doing and then now what your new role is.
So I started as a caseworker. I was a caseworker for probably 6 years. I then became a supervisor and most recently became the child welfare program director.
Yes, and she's gonna rock that role. I'm so excited to be in that role. Melissa was my initial contact there outside of Elizabeth, and she's just incredibly responsive and so dedicated to this work. I mean, she has her own kids at home, and I don't know if you came back from maternity leave early, but I felt like you're still responding on maternity leave. These people who are in the trenches are so dedicated. So what do you feel like is a specific time when something that our church either provided or did that impacted a family that you serve?
So one of the things that is closest to my heart is the Moms Rock Christmas Party. It's a Christmas party that we have for our biological mothers that have children in foster care. They don't typically have something going on for Christmas, and sometimes that's the only thing they get to do. So you guys have helped provide food, desserts, gifts. We do gifts and raffles, and the feedback that we've gotten from the moms on that is just amazing. They're so thankful, and it's really great to hear it Christmas. But it's hard to pinpoint just one because you guys have helped so much. Like Ruth was saying, all the clothes and personal care items, when if we get notice that we have to move a child, it's usually very quickly, and we don't have a lot of time to get stuff together. So just having the clothes and stuff on hand to be able to send to a new foster home before they have time to go shopping is really wonderful.
And is there a biggest need right now that you're currently experiencing at Family Court?
Well, I'm thinking about this. I think there's two big needs, and the first one is more service-oriented, and that is foster parents. We always need foster parents. And we need quality foster parents. We need people that are in it for the right reasons to be there for the child and to try to help facilitate getting the kids back to their biological parents, or to provide permanency to them if they're not going to go home. And then just continuous donations. We need gift cards, we need clothes, we need to be able to have those things on hand for when emergencies come up and we need them. Or, we placed a child in a relative home and they need $20 gift card to get some groceries for the night for them and the child. So just ongoing stuff. Everything that you guys provide has been awesome.
Thank you. It's so good to hear from your perspective. Aren't you guys glad she's here today? Because I'm always All right, so Veronica, why don't you tell us a little bit about your role and what you're doing now?
So I'm actually the development and special events manager. So I do all the fundraising and donation coordination, volunteer coordination, all that kind of stuff. So I'm quite a bit different from Melissa. My day is not as chaotic, unless I have an event that day. But basically, yeah, I do fundraising.
So she's the one who I usually now drop all the diapers off to when I come in, carrying as many as I can in my arms. And then you sign off on that, and you always send us a nice thank you note, which is so appreciative. We're so appreciative of that. And so what would you say are some of the things that you're working on right now? Are there any special events coming up or things like that we can know about?
Yeah, so we actually just had our Pasta Palooza last night, but we'll get you for next year. Our next big event is our golf outing in August, and we're planning our 120th anniversary for next year. So we're going to be 120 next December in 2020, which is a big milestone. So we'll be doing a whole bunch of that stuff that you guys can get involved with. And we're starting a new event next May that is just starting to get into the works.
Okay. Well, will you guys thank them for joining us today? I'm so glad to be able to feature all these amazing people who have jumped in with the gifts that they have at their own level and their own time and figuring out how they can play a part. There's a lot of other people who've been involved, and I'm just going to talk a little bit about who provides the childcare on those Tuesday evenings. So there's something we talk about at with Surround that we don't talk about a lot. It's called Surround Sustainers. So when I was thinking through this ministry, like what will keep this effective, I really felt like there's a missing component. Sometimes people in ministries focus on going to agencies or supporting people who are doing or just taking care of those who are fostering and adopting. But I feel like the missing component is these people in between who help sustain those people doing those work. So that's kind of what our sustainers are. So some of our sustainers come every Tuesday when we have that connection group. And Karen Phillips is one of them, Holly Hamill is one of them. Both of them declined my lovely offer to speak today, but I'm going to share a little bit about what Karen said, why she got involved. Just really practically, she was looking for a way to serve around here that didn't require being up really early on a Sunday morning. So this was a good place to engage, right? I mean, seriously. And then one of the other things that she said is that when she came the first time and she got to know the kids and interacting with them, she realized she didn't want to come once in a while because she didn't want to be another adult who was in and out of their lives. And I loved that answer. I think that's so important because this is not just one of us to make sure these kids feel secure and loved. it's up to all of us. So thank you, Karen. Thank you, Holly. Josh has been serving there. A few others have come once or twice to help do that. So I'm just so appreciative of that. And all the parents who get to have a meal and quiet are appreciative. Couple things on the horizon. I just want to talk about a little bit about where we're hoping to go forward. So as you are thinking through today and wanting to find your place, a couple of the new things we want to do is be able to be more intentional with the time that we have with the kids on those Tuesday evenings. So we've been doing it for almost a year now, but I would love for us to be able to train and equip those who are providing the childcare to provide activities that are helping them develop and grow. So we're going to do some extra trainings. We have new people joining our community with some expertise in this area. Sanandra, who's worked with a local camp for kids in foster care. So she has a lot of training with how to deal with kids who've been through trauma, and so I'm going to tap her resources, and she's going to help. And it's just going to be really exciting to see the kids also find community and connection, and not just be watching a movie, which works. You know, it's done the deal for a while. But. And then also, I really want to see us expand our reach more in the city. And this is a big deal because I feel like we've done such a good job with Family Corps that I haven't want to move too quickly to other agencies and then spread ourselves thin and not be able to meet any of the needs well. But there are lots of other places doing good work. And Center for Youth and Family Solutions is one of them. Trudy works there, Michelle works there. I would love to be able to see either our church step up our game and be able to impact them directly as well, or to come alongside another church and partner with them and help them develop a ministry like this. So that's something I'm thinking about, something we're dreaming about, because every agency I feel like needs church partners like this. There's never enough funding, there's never enough people, man hours to get things done, and so it'd be cool to start expanding our reach across the city. So, I'm going to end this morning with just a few questions. Are you tired of feeling helpless and frustrated and downright angry at the brokenness of our world? Do you feel overwhelmed by the problems and sometimes check out or disengage because it just feels hopeless? Right? Do you want to find tangible steps to actually changing things? Do you want to impact the broken systems in our nation? Thank you for responding. I didn't expect that. Do you want to see a decrease in the number of people who are experiencing homelessness in our city? Yes. Jump in. Do you want to help prevent teens being trafficked? Jump in. Do you want to see cycles of poverty end? Jump in. Are you outraged at our prison system and the incarceration rates? Jump in. Do you want to see young women thriving and teenage rates of pregnancy decline? Jump in. Do you want to welcome the stranger, clothe the naked, feed the poor, stand up for the marginalized, offer hospitality, and be the church? I know you do, because that's the type of church that we are. When we see problems, we don't look away. We don't assume someone else will come by. We don't walk on for fear of what it's going to look like to interact with that person over there. When we see people hurting, we run toward them. Our church finds ways to help. We realize their pain is somehow also our pain. And we cross the freaking street, we bandage their wounds, we put them on our donkey, and we take them to the nearest inn. We pay for their stay, and we leave a little extra just in case. Glennon Doyle, an author, activist, and speaker, often says we belong to each other. We belong to each other. This concept isn't exactly stated in our directives at Imago, but I think this premise is one of the basics of our church's foundation. Inside and out of these walls, when people are suffering, we are suffering. And when people are celebrating, we are celebrating. The pain and the joy are ours to share. What an honor to do this together. And the Jesus that we're aiming to follow knew we need each other to make it through this messy, broken world that sometimes slings joy and pain all at the same time. He established the church, somehow saying big things like, you are the light of the world, and you are a chosen people. He believed that together, we are better, and so do I. The time is now. The opportunities are best. There is a place for you. We can make a difference. I can't wait to see where we go from here.
One of the things that I love most about Imago is the reality that we're a church that's for something and not a church that's against something. We are a church that is for something, not a church that's against something. So many churches are known for what they're against, not what they're for. And I just want to acknowledge, I've only been here for 5 months, and this church has done some great work in that area. And I just want us to give thanks and praise and gratefulness to the work that Dustin and Christina have done in this ministry. So as we prepare to come to the table of communion this morning, I just want to engage a topic with us around the topic of theology around our communion table. So during Lent, we have done communion a little different here. We have traditionally had a station where there was bread that was just sort of, I don't know, just basic bread. And then you had juice, and we had wine, and we had another spot where there was a gluten-free option. And the beauty of that is that we wanted to always capture the diversity that is Imago. That there are people who come from all different traditions, some that wine was a part of their tradition, some that juice was a part of their tradition, and some that were never able to take communion because there was no gluten-free option. And so we wanted to be able to provide the diversity of options. And so then during Lent, we decided that we were going to try inclusive bread that was nut-free, vegan-free, gluten-free, dairy-free, something else free, everything free. Also not vegan free, no vegans were killed in the making just vegan. So all of these things are this kind of inclusive bread. And then one of the things we began to have a conversation about is what if we just did juice for Lent, to see how that looked. And part of the reason for that was there are many in our community who are recovering or have recovered or somewhere on the journey of dealing with substance challenges. And so we wanted to be mindful of that. There were some people who we could ask to help serve communion, and they would feel like, well, I don't know if I want to say yes, because if I get up there and someone grabs the juice, and I get stuck with the wine, I don't want to even touch it, I'm going to drown it. And so some people didn't feel like they could serve because of being fear of having maybe come to the table and not be the case, and not even wanting to touch it. Others, there's a thoughtfulness around, okay, if someone's with us and they didn't hear the instructions about which line the wine is in, or perhaps if there by chance maybe was a switch up with the wine and the juice, they perhaps take and get in the wrong line, and this would be devastating for them. As well as for our children. We wanted them to be able to participate in communion, and we have always had juice, so they've always been able to do that if parents choose to allow their children to participate in that way. But there's also the deep sense of one loaf of bread that we're all eating from, and that some of us give up our own liberties, and that's one cup that we're all drinking from, and some of us give up our own liberties so that we can all be one and participate in this act together. And here's the beauty of it. Diversity and inclusion can be seen in both of those practices. And I think that there are some in our church, I know, from having many conversations during Lent, who were like, I'm really going to miss wine. I really want wine. I really want that to come back. And it brings back childhood memories, it brings back nostalgic memories, and that's what Jesus literally used in Scripture. There's definitely some folks who feel that. And I want you to know, I hear you, I see you, and I understand that deeply. But I also want us to think about something else, that there are certain parts of the world where wine is not acceptable to people, churches who are gathering. It's a luxury, so they grab water. I know churches that had to literally serve grass in Africa because they didn't have bread. It's a luxury. And so it was the symbols around them that was most important, that represented what they were doing, not necessarily the thing. I know a church that ran out of bread one Sunday, and they're like, we're going to do communion every week. So they bought a Twinkie in the kitchen. And so they broke bread with a Twinkie, right? And it's this table right here, it symbolizes, for me at least, and I think everyone probably would have different meanings to what this table means. That's why through communion, different people share what communion meant to them. This table, for me, it is a table I get to know that I can come to, that everybody is welcome at, that everybody is loved. That at this place, when the world tries to divide us up and tell us you're not welcome, and you belong there, and you belong here, and tries to sort of break us into subgroups, there's one place on a Sunday morning, all around the world, that people gather at this one table from all different backgrounds and beliefs and creeds and traditions and colors and sexualities and genders and ability and divorce status and single status and family and non-family and wanderers and doubters and questioners and true believers and whatever you want to call it, right? You're all welcome at this table. And they come and they break from the same loaf of bread and drink from the same cup because they all know that there's a God who loves them deeply. That's what this table means for me. And for many years, I was told that I didn't deserve this table, and so now I'm so grateful to come to this table. So I say all that to say this. We're going to enter into a time where we're going to lift up inclusion as well as diversity. So for most Sundays of the year, we're going to have communion that is inclusive bread and juice. But I also want to say that there are those who really love wine in our community, and that's important to them. And so as the leadership and staff have talked about this, there will be certain times where we're going to do what we call smorgasbord communion. All right? And this means because we're interdenominational, we have so many traditions and backgrounds and ways that people are familiar with taking communion. There's going to be some Sundays throughout the year where we're just going to have a massive table up here. I'm picturing it this way, all right? A massive table up here where we're just going to have all these different ways that churches take communion throughout different traditions and backgrounds. And you just come to the table and you take. You take what you want, what you need, and what you see. Now, that will be a lot of work to do every single first Sunday, right? So we're not going to do that every week, but we're going to do it because we do also believe that diversity is important. And so I believe there's a way to facilitate that table as well. And so I wanted to explain why we're making this change and where that's coming from, and the value of diversity and the value of inclusion, and how we're taking steps to honor both at this table, because we want all to feel welcome and comfortable coming here. We all want all to know that there's meaning and there's beauty coming to the table together. Amen? Amen. So with that, I'll invite the worship team to come, and we're going to be taking communion this morning. Do we have the Apostles' Creed ready for us to read? Praise God. Good. So we read the Apostles' Creed before communion, but here's one thing I just want to note about this. You don't have to believe everything in the Apostles' Creed to come to the table either, okay? Sometimes you may not believe anything we say together as a community believe with you. Sometimes you may believe one line in there or one word in there, and that's okay because you don't need to believe anything to come to this table. You just need to be created in the image of God, and guess who's created in the image of God? Every single one of us. So great, we're all welcome at the table, but we say this together because this is an ancient creed that's been said throughout the years to the Christian church that in many ways unites us and holds us together as our sort of core fundamental beliefs of the Christian faith, wherever you are in your journey. And we invite you to say this along with us now before we come to the table. We believe in the Father Almighty, creator of heaven and earth, and in Jesus Christ, his only Son, our Lord, who was conceived of the Holy Spirit, born of the Virgin Mary, suffered under Pontius Pilate, was crucified, died, and was buried. He descended to the dead. On the third day, he rose again from the dead. He ascended into heaven and sits at the right hand of God the Father Almighty, whence he shall come to judge the living and the dead. We believe in the Holy Spirit, the Holy Catholic Church, the communion of saints, the forgiveness of sins, and the resurrection of the body, and life everlasting. Amen. I invite the servers to please come and assist this morning. As I said, all are welcome at this table to come. We receive communion this morning by intinction, so you'll receive a piece of bread, we'll dip that into the juice, and then you may return to your seat by aisle. Come just as you are, know that you are loved.
Our prayer this morning is to be a blessing to those who cause suffering, to rejoice with those who are rejoicing, to weep with our friends as they're weeping, are putting on Christ like a new skin, that we won't fall into resurrection. We will eat with the poor and party like priests. We will serve ridiculous feasts, inviting all whom we love and adore, and those we wish would not come through our door. For we are putting on Christ like a new skin, that we won't fall into resurrection. Yes, we are putting on Christ like a new skin, that we won't fall into resurrection. Help us see peace as far as we can, and let you bring justice and righteousness as you arrive and set all things right. Until then, please help us to learn not to fight, 'cause we are putting on Christ like a new skin, that we won't fall into resurrection. Yes, we are putting on Christ like a new skin, that we won't fall into resurrection.
As we leave this place, may you go loving as you have been loved, sending hope and peace in the world, being a church that is for and not against. Go in peace and know that you are loved.